Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode
173.
173 of what's our podcast name? Three Splinters Podcast. I just want to highlight something in the beginning of this episode right now because we just spent time with this guy, thought he was our friend, even though their podcast sucks. Eric Spenceley of at Eric Spenceley Design Co. canceled their Patreon membership.
No.
No way.
And he didn't think that I would know. Well, I'm not surprised. They're probably hard on money, seeing as how their podcasts suck so much.
My heart is not broken.
You know what? He cannot come to the meetup anymore.
Too bad.
Was he planning on coming? Do you know?
I don't know. I talked to him about it. Thought he said he was going to.
Yeah.
He'll probably sign up at the $1 tier right before the event just to buy a ticket and come.
Maybe he's consolidating accounts and he had to change his payment method.
Maybe. I'm going to text him. Screw you, Eric Spenceley.
Yeah. Hope it was worth it. You lost 3 friends.
Yeah.
Hey, did we get any new patrons?
We did. We lost one worthless patron, but gained 3 amazing patrons.
Woo, woo, woo.
I can't remember if last week I mentioned Mr. Jeff Wood. I don't think I did.
Yes, you did. Yep.
Okay, well, Jeff, welcome again. In that case, we have 2 new patrons. We have Mr. Jacob Powers.
Hi, Jacob, Mr. Powers.
Our newest apprentice.
Is it Jacob Danger Powers?
I think so. Yeah, I just think he left the danger part out.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
And then we have Mr. John Melito, who just signed up today. So
nice.
Wow. Welcome, John Melito.
Yeah, lucky you, John Melito. We are a couple days behind recording, so because you signed up today, you get a shout out. And you'll hear it tomorrow if you listen to the podcast, because I have to edit it right after this. But that's all we have for new patrons. Welcome. You will have your chance at our monthly giveaways, which I still do not know what the monthly giveaway is for this month, but I will know before we draw. Man, you know what? We only have one more episode. We may just be doing Festool swag this month. Maybe we'll just throw in an extra thing of swag. I got an entire drawer full of it. But
I guess several.
One other thing that was brought up that I didn't even think about that we should probably just announce here now. Bourbon with the Boys, technically speaking, should be next Friday, but myself and Ronnie will be at the wonderful Workbench Conference, and Sedge will be at the Arnold. So my recommendation is we push it to March 7th.
Okay.
The first Friday of March.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you'll get 2 calls kind of in the month of March.
That's betterer.
That's betterer. Okay. That's what we'll do. Man, I feel like I haven't seen you guys in 24 hours.
It's about that.
It's been about that. Ronnie, we made it home safely through the blizzard.
Yeah, with the interstate were they fine?
It was pretty good. Yeah. Once we got to Indiana, it was beautiful.
It was. Jason bought me some windshield wiper fluid because I ran out.
Oh.
Yeah. That's really why he wanted me to go on the trip.
Yeah, that's why.
You know, Cameron bought some windshield wiper fluid about a week or 2 ago, and he told me, he's like, Dad, if I knew it was that cheap, I would have bought it a long time ago, and I would have used it like it was gold. He goes, I used to always sit there and wonder, do I want to use it? Is this windshield wiper fluid worthy? He's like, now that I know how cheap it is, he goes, I'm going to use that stuff like it's a water gun.
Yeah. I use it over the top in the wintertime because I'm just like, I'll just spray it until the ice melts when it's like 5 degrees outside and it's just freezing over as it melts the ice. For everybody that's listening, myself and Mr. Sedgley went down to Ronnie Fulton's shop. We got to see his house for the first time ever. We got to see his shop for the first time ever. We got to see his boat in person. And I can confirm that everything looks much better on camera.
And we ate lunch and dinner at Country Boy.
Yes.
We did eat lunch and dinner at Country Boy. Dirk from Dayton is screaming right now in excitement.
We sat in the same place as we sat with Dirk and with Dirk and Stephanie.
And it was an arm wrestling competition. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was.
The reason for our trip was to discuss the upcoming meetup in September. So I would say probably in the next couple of months, you will start seeing some of the sponsors come on board, which I'll be sure to list on the website, and we'll probably put them in Discord as we get them. And just a reminder for everybody listening, we are having a meetup at the end of September, the 25th through the 28th, if I remember correctly.
Yep. SplinterCon.
SplinterCon.
Con,
You must be a
con.
patron to come at any level to purchase a ticket, and we only have 16 tickets remaining, I believe.
Wow.
So make sure you get your ticket before it's too late, because we added quite a few people to the sponsor list this year. So if you thought last year was good, this year's going to be better.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what we've been up to. Have you been up to anything else, Mr. Sedgley, other than our wonderful trip down to Kentucky?
Yeah, I did a lot of cleaning in my shop this weekend because we didn't shoot because we had some weather come in, and I told Chris to stay home. But I gotta, when you look at something for a long time and you struggle with something for a long time and you're just like, oh God, what am I gonna do today? Because something got canceled or whatever. And I just said to hell with it, and I took care of a couple things in the shop. I'm kind of moving my shop around a little bit because of my Tormac. I don't like to move my Tormac all the time. I need to use it because I store it up against the wall and blah blah blah. So I moved it at the end of my bench, and I'm
nice.
struggling about. I reached out to Patrick because he recommended these really good low profile machine recasters because I got it on the Tormac Shapinen station, and I just don't want to put it up any higher. And if I put casters, even if low profile, it's going to put it up higher. I don't want to stand on something.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave it on. So I decided, okay, I went and got new sliders. They still suck. Furniture mover sliders.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said, you know what? I'm just going to move it to the end of my bench and leave it on the sliders. And it's perfect. So we'll see if that's the final resting spot for it. But I put it where I'm going to use it the most.
You have yours on the Tormac stand, don't you?
Oh, yeah. But it's got adjustable pads that are really cool. But they got they're rubberized at the bottom, and I put them on those furniture mover things and slide it around. It's still a hassle. Jason, you talk about it all the time. You don't like to, if you have to move something and set it up, you just want to walk up to it, flip a switch, dust extractor's already hooked to it, it's ready to rock and roll.
Mm-hmm.
But I also save myself some money because I've been thinking about doing this for a long time. I glued up some 2x6s. And you guys know what a squat wedge is? It's
is
a watt.
You squatting?
It's a long wedge, and it puts you angle
wedge.
your feet. Wedge.
I thought you said squat sedge.
Squat sedge wedge.
So you could buy these, and they're wide, right? They're like, buy them out of, diamond steel with a diamond plate steel, and they're really nice, but, I don't want to spend all that money. So I glued up some 2x6s, and I whipped out my bandsaw, and I cut them, and I went, yeah, I just saved myself a couple $100, and they work perfect. So,
Sedge, I'm going to give you a freebie. I have an idea for you.
What's that?
It would be a good YouTube video. You could make plans for it. I think you should design simply because of the fact that the current thing is a little high and you want to make it mobile. Why don't you design a base for the Tormac?
Yeah, I could. God damn, that base is so nice that it's on now. It's all steel, and it's to die for. And when you buy their accessory kits with the knife sharpening set or the turning set, it comes in like not a sustainer but a plastic case that's got a foam insert. You take the foam insert out with everything in it and put it right in to the drawer. It's perfect. So it's all Kaizen foamed and everything. Yeah, it's that their system is so well thought out.
Yeah, it's nice, but but you may not remember that it's as much as the Tormac itself. That base does sell.
Oh,
And
I know that.
that's enough to make some people want to build their own, you know.
Yeah, I'll give that some thought. That's a good
Because then you
idea.
you could get those fancy casters. It could be the perfect height for you. For those
Yep.
of you that don't
Yeah,
know, Sedge is vertically challenged.
I'm wicked tall.
Wicked
Wicked,
tall.
wicked tall.
So, sometimes you hem and haw on a few things like that squat wedge, and it's also good when you're in the gym and warming up, because if you ever do body squats, you can only go so low, but I really like the wedge when you put your feet on it because you can go down and just fully stretch and bottom out on your body squats. And sometimes I just sit down on my haunches in a squat position, wide squat, and it's really good. It opens up your whole frame. Yeah.
Mm,
So
that's a good picture in my head.
somebody said you want to do when are you gonna do a fitness channel? I go, no, 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 no. No, but I guess I get a lot of knowledge in my head doing it for so many years.
What would you call
Yeah,
it? Would you call it sweat tool?
I'd call it. That's pretty good.
Sweat
Sweat
tool.
tool,
Sweat tool?
sweaty tool.
Sweaty tool? Sweaty bent tool?
So, it's like I have a lot of stuff I've designed, like a bulldog. They're pretty popular for reverse rear delts, and I thought about it. And I went, oh, I was looking at it for a couple $100, and they attach to your Rogue rack. And Sornex makes it, and a couple other Revolt Fitness makes it. And I looked at it, I went, huh. And I said, okay, I'll just go design one really quick. So about 3 hours later, I had one after I drew it out, drilled out you know, the uh, the pin lock on it and everything. I was like, oh my God, it works perfect. Why should I buy one?
Yeah.
So I did some deadlift chocks for my squat rack, so I could use my um, rackable trap bar off of the. I hate pins, and if somebody's listening, they know to me by pins. I hate doing pulls off the pins, so I do pulls off the bottom of the rack, but I had to elevate it because I didn't want to use my jack to put my plates on, so it elevates it just enough so I could just plate and deplate my rackable trap bar. So it works out good for deadlifts. Yeah. So hey, that's what I've been up to.
That's cool.
Ronnie, what have you been up to?
Nothing. Just recovering from my guess.
Oh, come on.
No, no. I'm still enjoying, I guess, my February of the frozen tundra downtime. There's a lot of things coming when it warms up, and we've been able to get a lot more done on the boat even since you all left. We're started enclosing the top, which is called the subdecking, and that's a layer of 1/4 inch marine ply that goes down. That's the last thing that goes on the top before the pretty stuff goes on. And we're going to be putting 1/4 inch solid material like sapele mahogany on top of that. So I'm looking forward to that.
1/4 inch
But actually,
ply on top of
oh
it,
no,
or is it going to be actual hardwood?
it has to be solid because of the amount of fairing and sanding that will happen. If it wasn't for that, I would love to be able to use ply because I'd be able to, it'd be easier to match the veneers and everything. It would be a lot less work, but I wouldn't be able to do it because you have to fair the whole top and you'll be taking as much as, 3/16 of an inch off in places, probably. Um, Maybe a little less than that, maybe like eighth, but you'd burn through the veneer of plywood.
So are you going to be cutting them into thin strips and then like putting them down with some sort of adhesive or epoxy?
Yes. Yes. There'll be a 7.5 inch band all the way around from the front, all the way down that goes down the sides to the back. And then the center, and then there's one 7.5 down the center from the front to the back. And then there's 4 inch strips. People use anywhere from 2.5 to 4 inch strips that fills in those on each side. And those go on the bow, they go on top of that back of the seat detail, and then they go in the back. And those lines carry all the way through. And that will be that's one of the things I'm looking forward to doing more than anything on the boat. I just think it's gonna be so fun to do that. That's where it has to be perfect. That's what everybody sees. It's gotta, if you mess up, you gotta do it over. Like on anything. It's gonna be fun though.
Are you leaning more towards thinner strips than wider strips?
Well, I'm doing on the middle sections. I'm gonna go by what looks right. Once I get my border, I'll know by based on what looks right. And I would say my guess would be like around 3 inch range. Three inch is what I would guess. Um, because there needs to be a big enough difference between the 7.5, 8 inch perimeter board around there. And then
Right.
you've got like an eighth inch to a quarter inch gap between each one of those small strips.
So, Ronnie, what's really cool about this conversation, I said it in your shop, I have perspective now, right?
Yeah.
I no, it's funny because I know what you're talking about, but now I have a better way of visualizing it because A,
Yeah.
I saw the boat, but now I know the shop,
Yeah.
and the layout. Because you've said some stuff in the shop. I was like, okay, I get it, but I think I have to see it. Now
Hmm.
I understand your whole shop layout, property area, and everything.
Yeah, it does help to know
Hey,
the
I
layout.
got one question. How's Skunk doing today?
As long as it's frozen and snowy out there, which it snowed again last night, it's another three. I'm not touching them. Sedge is referring to a skunk I caught like about a week and maybe 3 or 4 days ago in a little trap, and I was making sure first he was dead, and because I didn't want him to what is it called squirt me. I don't know what it's called. And then it just started snowing and he froze over and I almost forgot about him pretty much. But he's just a frozen skunk back there in the trap, and eventually I'm going to get rid of him. But right now it's like, we've been getting, I mean, it snowed twice since you all left. It snowed
Wow.
twice. Cameron hasn't been to school this week. They've
It
canceled
snowed
No
here
school.
last
kidding.
night.
Yeah, we had about 2 to 3 inches, I think, overnight again. And the problem is what for us, whenever it rains, and then it turns to snow, they can't put salt down. It's like the death of because you can't. They said you're wasting salt if you put it down in the rain. But when the temperature drops overnight and it starts snowing at 2 or 3 in the morning, that's the perfect storm for missing school. Even if it melts that by 10 o'clock, they're going to call it off. So they're officially out of days now. As they have the work makeup days and they have snow
Hmm.
days. Anything that they're 2 days into the summer now. So it's not on free days anymore. Which Cameron said he doesn't care. He said it's his last year. He said I'll go all summer. It'll be fun. He goes I don't do anything at school anyway.
So
So
they would
he's
actually extend the regular school days to make up for them?
yes. Once you go through your allotted snow days, I'm sure it's the same in your school district. You have a certain amount of snow days that they kind of give you, and if you go over
Yep.
that, you have to make it up at the end of the year. So sometimes you go 4 or 5 days longer into the summer just to make up for those days. Usually we don't
Interesting.
hit that. We don't usually hit that, but this is the first time I can remember in a while that we've had a lot of snow this year. A lot of
Hmm.
ice. It's not just snow, it's ice or snow or um but
Yeah.
that's
Driving home. Those we would the roads were pretty good, but 75 was starting to pile up a little bit. Even
Yeah.
75.
yes, I heard a semi jackknife on the way between Georgetown and Lexington. There were some accidents
Wow.
that morning. Morning's always the worst.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, before the trucks can get out there.
But it
Yeah.
almost seemed like when we hit the Indiana border, it was clear. It was
Yeah.
sunny.
That's where the line was for the weather.
Yeah.
That's where it was. We actually got a lot less than just 10 miles south of us. Lexington got about 6 to 8 inches. And we only got
Ooh.
what 3 or 4 that morning. Madison sent me a picture of the campus, which is like 15 minutes away, and there was 6, 8 inches on top of the cars.
Oh
I
Big
am
wow.
difference.
so over the cold.
Big difference. And then it was supposed to taper off toward northern Kentucky, so you were definitely driving out of it.
It
Usually I'm
was
driving into it when I drive up to see you all. I'm
it
like I
was
crossed the river and I see snow.
it was 0 degrees this morning, and we got about an inch and a half. And it was I went out and brushed off Marianne's car at 5 because she was heading to Lowe's for work, and it was just powder because it was so
Mhm.
cold.
Mm. It's
So
15 here. I didn't realize how warm we were. You said it's
Yeah, much
worse.
warmer.
zero. Actually, I almost took a picture with 0.0.
Oh man. Yeah, I'm so over that too. But Cameron and I were talking today and said that we almost wish we had these two pieces up when you all came because the boat looks so different. And it instantly hit me. You know how when you go to a house that's being framed up, like 2x4 stud walls
Yep.
versus when the drywall goes up?
Yep.
That's what happened when we put that on the top of the boat. All of a sudden, it didn't look like a stud framed house. It looks like a real boat. I mean, I just stood there. I got on a ladder. Oh, this is funny. I got on a 4-foot ladder, and Cameron was standing on this swivel stool. He was standing up on the stool. I'm climbing the ladder, and I was like, "You shouldn't stand up there. That's kind of dangerous." And he's like, "I'll be okay." I walked right in my head right into the ceiling fan. And
Oh, how nice.
I told him he was being dangerous. I hit the fan. But we stood there. I stood on top of the ladder, and he stood on top of the stool, and we just stared at it for a while. I just couldn't get down because it changes the whole view of the boat.
Yeah.
The lines really start coming out when you put that on there. So it's pretty neat. We also, since you came, I don't know if I forgot to tell you when we were there. I don't know if you noticed, but the two front seats were actually high by about a half an inch.
Uh,
I hadn't done the final match the curve of the boat, match the slant of the back, and we spent more time on that today than we did cutting the 4 sheets that we have on the top because we had to
Wow.
use strings. We had to mark in the middle where it falls, the drop of the boat. There's like 4 different corners, and then they're all arched from each side.
Mhm.
whoa.
So it took like basically just getting a pencil line all the way around by marking the corners and then planing it down really slowly. That was a Those seats were some of the most complicated things so far about the boat, I think, to make that. And I see why when I look on the forums, people skip that step and they usually don't make that part of the boat, of the top of the boat. They just make them sit by themselves. And I see why, because it's kind of a brain teaser and it's a lot to it. But I'm just was set on that because I think it makes the look of the boat when it cuts in like that and covers the top of the seats. So that's a big accomplishment. I was excited about that, and we're excited to get that gets screwed. I have to look at the plans. I'm pretty sure it gets bronze screws every 2 inches around the perimeter and every 4 inches along every one of those top battens. So it's a lot of screws that goes in. And what we did last time, and we did on the sides, is we lightly screw in some of them to make sure everything's right, and then we have to pull it up, put epoxy down on everything, and then set it down in epoxy. So we actually install them twice, and then we'll keep it a ½ inch proud all the way around, and then come back and fair it after we do the finished decking. We'll fair that all at the same time. And then that edge gets covered with I don't know I think it's called a bumper rail, the stainless steel bumper rail. And I still have to figure out where to buy that. And if anyone's listening and knows, you would think that was easy to find. I've been on boating sites, I've looked and I don't see it. I have not been able to find it anywhere. It's like a stainless steel, I think it's called bumper rail. It's what, is on any boats that you even buy.
Yeah,
And
right.
I'm just trying to find that material and I haven't been able to find it. Because I know if I don't put that on there and I made it wood, some people make it like solid wood and just finished, one little bump and it's going to look bad. That's what taps the dock. That's what taps, everything. So that I think, and I
The
think
rub.
it's a,
You're talking about the rub rail?
yeah, yeah. And the best I could find when I looked it up is they said they called it a bumper rail. I guess the rub rail I've called
Rub
too, but
rail. Yeah.
I mean, I haven't spent a ton of time, but the boating sites I've been on that sell everything, I have not been able to find it. Oh, and by the way, did you all know your West Marine in Indianapolis closed? It says permanently closed.
No shit.
Yeah. I was planning on going there after the day after festival event. And I looked on Google Maps and it says permanently closed. So I found that interesting.
That's the place right off the interstate, isn't it?
Um, yeah, it's not close to anything. Every time I've been there, whether I was at either one of your houses or a festival, it's a pretty good ways away. It's like
Oh,
35 minutes away from everything. It's kind of towards the center, I think, of Indy, somewhere like that. It's like it's not close to anything that I've ever been to, but it's closer because we don't have one. So I thought, well, I'll go by there and get some of the finishes I needed.
not
But
anymore.
then the other thing I didn't talk about is I talked about a little bit last time that we were running behind on not getting a video out for the week, and we'll be at like a 2 week gap. I hope to get it out. Hope to have it this weekend. I have the footage. We just have to put it together now. We being me, and I had another delay when we thought we were going to do the decking last week, and we ran into. I talked about last week that we didn't get the finishes. Yeah, I did because I remember I tried to say the
Mm.
epiphanies or whatever I tried to say it for the first time.
Epiphanes.
Epiphanes. Yeah.
Epiphanes.
Epiphanes.
Well, something. But
Show
I'm
title.
glad I waited. That stuff is awesome.
Yep.
Best stuff I've ever used. Best stain I've ever used. Best varnish I've ever used. I see why everybody loves it. I've never put down stain that was just so effortless. Just it worked great. That held us up to, I think I may have touched on that I was getting ready to on the last podcast, but we got all of those stained and varnished and back in, and that was a pain. And those stainless steel screws, I know I remember telling somebody that they
Yeah,
were started
me.
breaking. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they were breaking and they were snapping, and Cameron was close to losing it because when those screws snap, you've got
Yep.
to take out the other ones. You got to take a grinder and you've got to grind out that screw head, and it's hard to drill into stainless. That steel is hard. So we had about four of them snap on us. That wasn't fun, but we got through that, and I feel like we're moving forward now. Other than
Are
that,
you waxing the screws when you put them in?
that makes a big difference. We weren't at
Uh-huh.
first. We
Yep.
weren't at first, but I grabbed one of those the wax blocks that you gave Cameron for
Mm-hmm.
the bottom of his, and I just rubbed across
Yep.
that, and it did it. Just doing that,
That's
anything works.
I had a friend call me up. My buddy Zach. I don't know if you ever met him, Jason. You might have. He was at the Christmas party. And Zach called me up. He was really frustrated. He goes, dude, I'm doing what you're saying about putting these face frames. You know how you drill face frames together? And he goes, I
Mhm.
bought this jig, blah, blah, blah. He goes, I'm getting really, he was pissed. He's called me up on a Saturday. I go, go get some wax or a bar of soap. I go, do you have some bar soap? He goes, yep. And I go, rub your screw in there and run it in. He called me back. He goes, dude, you're a miracle, man. They
It,
went in because he was snapping them. I go, of course. Hey, you're drilling into oak.
yeah, it makes sense. It works. And keep in mind, we were pre-drilling with the snappy bits that are tapered that have the
Yep.
angle, and we picked one that was barely smaller than the thread size. And we learned that from the bronze screws. You have to do that or they'll strip out. The heads will strip
Yep.
out. If they give any pressure at all, it's instant strip.
Hmm.
So we have to be really careful with those. But we found the stainless ones are they'll snap, and the bronze headed screws will strip. Those are your two things. But the wax or doing the soap idea, it does help. But it also helps to have the right size bit. It can't have any it can't have any slop in it at all,
Yep.
and it has to be drilled the right size, or it just does not work. So that was something. I'm glad we got past that part. And we used stainless because we wanted to have exposed screws on the floor, and I think the stainless looks better than the bronze. And I've had some people ask why aren't plugging the floor, and it's mainly because, and I've noticed other boat manufacturers do it too. It's where if you ever want to get to under the floor, it's removable. If we
Hmm.
plug that, you would never be able, it would be a pain. You could get in there, but you have to destroy it to get down there.
Yep.
And that's why we made them accessible. The top will not have any exposed fasteners. It'll be nothing. It'll be just clean furniture. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. Yep. So we're moving on along with that. And other than that, I don't think we had our day. We had our long day of hanging out, and it was a short day, but I'm saying it was a long day. Like we spent all day, and that was awesome. We got a lot done and got a lot of talking out of the way. We've got a lot of things we got to do to get ready for that event from that. And Cameron had fun. He was with us almost the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
That was good. Um,
Hey,
we took, well, go ahead.
we got to talk about what we did later, or do we want to
Yeah,
find out what Jason's been up to?
sure. What has Jason been up to?
What do you mean what we did later?
No, 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 no. I mean, do we want to talk about more of what we did during the meetup at Ronnie's later in the podcast, or you want to talk about it now, or because I don't
Yeah,
want to leave you out
yeah,
because I know
let's
you've
skip
been
over to
busy.
Jason. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, we can touch on a little bit. I haven't really done much today, though. Well, I take that back. So I'm using this Excedra pocket door hardware from Celiche. And
Good.
I went through and did the whole first one, and there was a couple of growing pains, but for the most part, it's pretty self-explanatory. They give you a schematic based on the measurements that you can basically go on their website. There's a form, or you can get it from Celiche. You fill it out, so your cabinet size, door size, all that stuff, what your reveals are going to be, and then they basically run it through their system. They create the hardware based specifically off of your project. So you have a lot of leeway. Like you could build something with very small with these this pocket door hardware, all the way up to something very, very large. In this case, it's very large. And you put all the hardware on, and then you basically assemble the bracket. It comes partially assembled, so you assemble the side bracket, you slide it on, and then do all that other stuff. Well, I ran into an issue with the hinges and the door. And the problem that I did is that for some reason, when I filled out the sheet, and I never even caught the problem, even when I verified it, I did all my measurements, but it never asks you for what the height of your cabinet is. It only asks you the height of your door. And so when I went through SketchUp and I pulled all my measurements out of it, everything was dead on except the door, because the door that I had in SketchUp was accounting for a different reveal. So when I filled out the form, it was like, what do you want your top reveal to be? 3 millimeters, because the sides, the reveal on this is 3 millimeters on the sides. So I wanted to maintain that throughout the entire project. So the width, everything was good. It was the height, and I put 2248 for the height of my door, plus 3 on the top, plus 3 on the bottom. So that would equal 25 or 2554, right?
Yeah, 6 extra.
So the problem was I didn't subtract the 6 millimeters from my door when I took the measurements in SketchUp. So that measurement was wrong. So they sent me, they put all the hardware and everything based on that. And so I was wrapping my head around it, like, how am I going to account for this difference? And we talked to some Sedge reps, and they're like, well, you can move it the front and bottom, and then when you put it on there, it has a little bit of play. And so it took me a few attempts to figure that out, but I ended up figuring out I just took all the difference off the bottom. So only one measurement actually changed, and that was where I drilled the very, very bottom cup hinge. And by shifting that, the amount that I needed to shift it, everything else lined up perfectly. So that took some trial and error. But then today, my goal was to get all of the holes drilled for the second one. And so I went out there and I did it, and it was like way faster, super fast. Like, plugged everything in, had all my measurements, drilled everything out, and I was like, you know what? I got a little bit of time. I had a phone call with a shaper this afternoon, and I had about an hour and 45 minutes. And this cabinet is the biggest cabinet I've ever built, right? I've built, it's the deepest and quite possibly the tallest, right? That is actually a full structured cabinet. And I'm like, well, I can't build it in my shop because, one, I would never be able to get it in by myself. So I was like, okay, I have a plan. I'll build it in place. I'll bring all my pieces in there. I'll staple them together. As I staple them, I'll screw them together, and then I'll just keep putting all my pieces on. And so I did that. And then I had this idea, okay, I think I'm going to try, because Sedge, you know how you and I talked about, I'm really trying to put a ton of effort into Patreon and put stuff there that you'd never see on my YouTube. Well, this project is one of them that you won't see on my YouTube. You'll see a video talking about it when I'm done, with a bunch of B-roll sprinkled in from the process, a lot of stuff coming from Patreon. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn on the camera, turn on a microphone, and I am going to talk through what I'm doing. And
oh, cool.
As I run into problems,
yeah,
like, they'll get to see in real time, like, what I'm doing to solve that, or like how my brain is working. And what I actually noticed, first of all, I've never done anything like that before. I've done some stuff live, right? I used to do it on Instagram pretty often. I'd turn on the thing and I'd be talking about doing something, and I'd be doing it live. And if you screw up live, Sedge, you know better than anybody. You screw up live, there is no editing it out, right? And so I wanted there to be this, raw footage of me doing this. And what I noticed is there were so many things, because this cabinet, the way I built the actual box itself is just like I'd build anything else, right? Narrow crown staples, screws, get everything together, use spacer blocks to get my spacing on everything, pre-punch all my holes before putting it together, whatever the case is. But there was things that I wish I would have accounted for. A really good example of that is like the middle dividers. I should have taken the time beforehand and like drilled dominoes or the lamellos and just clipped all that stuff together so it all lined up perfectly and I didn't have to worry about it. I didn't do that, right? So now I'm like, well, crap, how am I going to screw this in? Now I got to screw it in from the top. It's not going to be visible, but that wouldn't have been the preferred way. So like all of these things are happening like on this video, and I'm like talking through it, like, what am I going to do? Right. And I thought it was interesting. I ended up finishing getting it all assembled, but then I had to lift this bad boy up. I mean,
Oh
this thing's
boy.
like 38 inches wide, 30 inches deep. It's got a full 3/4 inch backer, 3/4 inch material for everything else, double layered center divider because there's going to be trays on both sides. This thing was heavy as crap. I had to go get my grabbo and like lift that thing, like try to get it up, and it was just enough to clear the ceiling. So now tomorrow I think I'm going to film the actual install piece. And this is probably going to be the most crucial part of the entire project.
Okay, so it wasn't live. Was it live like on Patreon or live
No,
on?
it's just I filmed it.
You filmed it. Yeah. Okay.
But I'm not going to edit it. Like I'm not going to edit
No.
anything out. I started and stopped the video a couple of times because I needed to run out in the shop to do something, and I didn't want them
That's
to.
what.
Yeah, I just shut off the camera. I say, hey, I'm going to shut this off. So what I'll do is I'll just take all that footage, put it in, export it the way that it is. It's going to be a long video, and people, not everyone's going to watch it, but I'm hoping that people watch it and they find something. I think tomorrow's video is going to be a lot better because it's actually going to be on the install. So this time I'm using, because it's so big, for these two cabinets, I installed a ledger board on the wall.
Yep.
100 so the top is 100 millimeters, and after I installed the ledger board, I actually went and got one of my sides, tested it out to make sure that it was at the right height and it lined up perfectly with my other cabinet. And then I'm using the leg leveling, the plastic leg levelers from Hafele for the front. So what I'll do is I'll get it on that ledger strip or that ledger board, push it up flat against the wall, slide my legs underneath there, and then I can adjust them to come up. So I already know the back is good. Now I'm just adjusting the front. But the most important part about this is the panels on the sides, because the refrigerator surround, I had to make sure that left side of the refrigerator surround was perfectly straight up and down. And then also perfectly straight projecting from the wall up and down, because the cabinet that has the pocket doors is 20 millimeters shorter than the refrigerator surround. Because when the doors are closed,
yeah, then it'll be flush.
And that 3 millimeter reveal, because reveals are easy when you're putting a cabinet next to another cabinet and your reveals are the door or a filler strip, right? Because those are constants basically. You can adjust doors however you need to make it look right. With this, I'm putting in a cabinet with a gap on the left and a gap on the right. So that cabinet has to be, one, perfectly straight up and down. It has to be perfectly 20 millimeters back from the front. And it has to have exactly 55 millimeter spacing from one to the other so the pocket doors will actually function properly. So I think tomorrow it'll be interesting to go through that. Like, okay, here's the problem. I'm 2 millimeters out at the top than I am at the bottom, so now I've got to adjust that. How am I going to adjust that?
Ronnie, have you ever done pocket doors?
Not the style that he has. I've done the style that looks like the standard ball bearing guides that have the flippers on them.
Yep.
I've done those before, and they're a lot more simple. The one that you showed in your story looked like a Willy Wonka bank vault.
Yeah.
It was like it did. It looked like a time machine opening up.
That's why I wanted you to talk about it, because I caught your story and I saw all the bits and pieces that you were trying to figure out.
Yeah. Yeah.
So as somebody who's I've operated them many times, because anytime I go to a show, I go to the Sedge booth, I see it. They've explained it to me before. They don't have really, really good assembly videos because, like a lot of brands, they have the digital. It's basically just a computer generated animation where it's like, then you put the screws in and it's like some screwdriver that comes in and turns and they all spin. Well, I mean, that's what the hardware is. And I consider doing an installation video for this, but I think it's better to like do introduction to what this is because I will certainly find a reason to use these again. But the hardware is really cool. Like,
Yeah, yeah, it looked nice.
as somebody who has never done it before, it's really straightforward. I had to jump on the phone with my buddy Matt at Celiche a couple of times, mainly on the door stuff, the actual hardware, like sliding them on. It was pretty easy. But I'm excited to see what it's gonna look like once it's actually in place and I can actually cut those doors. And what I was gonna do was I was actually gonna wait to do the doors until like everything was in place. But I think I'm actually just to make sure everything is right. Once I get this installed, I think my next step will be go ahead and cut the doors, drill out all my hinge holes, and actually put them on there, get them all dialed in, and then I can just set them off to the side, for finish when the time comes. But I really want to see what it's going to look like and how it operates before I get too deep into it. Because as soon as you put that cabinet hardware on the side, you can't get to it anymore.
Mhm.
Right? You'd have to move the cabinet in order to get to it because you don't have the space. So I think that's probably the smart play. And now I left all of the hardware off on the left side of the cabinet because I will actually kind of talk through how that gets installed and actually show it because it'll be part of the video when I talk about the hardware that I used. But then the next interesting part is once I get this in place, the next step will be the cabinet that's on the left. Now, again, typically this is very new to me because normally it's as easy as building all your boxes, putting them in, figuring out what your fillers are going to be, load it with fillers. But there aren't a lot of fillers, and the large vertical panels are acting as the barrier to my reveal. So like it all has to be exactly where it's supposed to be, and if it doesn't, it will be a big eyesore. So did that today. Hopefully tomorrow goes smoothly, and who knows, Sedge, next time you come over, maybe I'll actually have cabinets there.
I think it's smart to do your doors and like check and make sure everything before you move on, just to see
Yeah,
to those one doors.
my only concern, I guess I could just lay them on my dining room table in the meantime to keep them flat. So I'm using 3/4 inch MDF core riffs on, and I will likely, I mean, almost certainly, I need to order the door straighteners from Hayfala, which I've been watching a bunch of stuff on that. And those seem pretty easy and to install, and they seem to do exactly what they're supposed to do. So
Are they recessed into the door? Is that what they
they'll
are?
be
Like a
recessed
bar?
onto the backside. Yeah, it's basically a channel, and then there'll be like a circular cutout at the top, the bottom, and on because of the length of my doors, there'll probably be one in the middle. My doors are only going to be like 450 to 500, 450, I think is right around like wide each one. So they're not a real wide door. So I don't know if I need two or if I need one. I think two is probably smarter. And then you just tighten them down and they will literally straighten that door out totally perfect. And then when you open it up, there'll be like a black cover that's on it. So it won't even look bad. And plus the pocket doors will slide back in. So, they'll be open and slid back. You'll never see them.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good. That's good to have on there even after you install it because they could slightly do it after install. That'll
Yeah.
keep them stable. That'll be
Well,
good.
I mean, that's the good thing about those is that there's a lot of ways that you can stabilize a flat panel. But these you could retrofit to anything.
Mhm.
If you had a door that started to warp, you could order some of these straighteners, take your door off, route it out. You can use the Shaper Origin. It would be perfect for this. Matter of fact, they might even have a file for it already.
I imagine they would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's probably how I'll cut these in particular. Just throw some tape on the back side of it, use the Shaper Origin to cut them out exactly the size that I need them to be. And
Ronnie, you ever use door straighteners?
Yeah, I make my own.
Yeah.
No, not door straighteners. I've used them on a slab before. I just bought some U channel and I
Yep.
I cut two slots and because it was on the underside of a table and I did it just to make sure that it didn't want to lift because it was so wide.
Mm-hmm.
That principle, but not as refined and pretty, I'm sure, is the one that he's using, the version he's using.
Yeah, well, I've seen that people do like the curve cuts, the relief cuts in the back, and
Yep.
putting in
Yeah.
the or the
U
90
channel.
degree U
Yeah.
channel or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, but depending on how rigid that stuff is over that long of a distance, now with MDF core, it's not that big of a deal, but it's going to move a little bit. Like it may not even be that noticeable. It may not be that way initially, right? But
Right.
um, they're not crazy expensive for what they are. They're not super cheap. Um,
So you're going to be using white oak, riffs on white oak,
it's Riffs on White Oak MDF
MDF.
core.
MDF core.
Yeah,
Same
that
thing I
makes it pretty
used on the
solid.
island. Same thing I used on the built-in. And what's cool about those two doors, I'm going to get both doors out of one sheet.
That's good.
So I'm basically like taking a sheet of that stuff and just putting it up there, and it's going to be a perfect grade match and vertical from
Yeah.
the bottom all the way up. It's going to be really, really cool.
Unless you forget.
No, I won't forget.
You spin one around and then once
Yeah.
you start, you're like, no.
No, I'll throw a piece of tape on it that says right,
Yeah.
up, right, left,
Yes.
up.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
I think it'll be cool. I'm excited. I'm excited about it. It's just taking a lot longer than I expected, as usual. But part of that is
Well,
my own
because
fault.
when you build your second one, like Ronnie builds a second boat, it'll go faster.
Much faster. Think about all
Yeah.
the figuring out you've had to do. You wouldn't have to do it on the second one. You just be able
Yeah.
to just do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It does make
Now that I have these pocket doors, I'm thinking in my head, where else could I do this? Because that's really cool, you know.
yeah.
But part of me does wonder. It's like, okay, well, now we're gonna have this, it's quote unquote, pantry. Um, we're going to try to fit just about everything that we had in our pantry into this new space, which we can. I mean, there's huge open cabinets up top, and it's going to have pull-out trays, and all of our big stuff goes up there. But then we're going to have, all these pull-out drawers that has all of our canned goods and stuff, snacks for the kids and all that. But I can just picture it now, Max going up to this thing and just whipping it open, and yeah, we'll see how it lasts over time. But
It'd be
kind
pretty
of stuck
durable.
now because the way that I built it, you kind of have to use that hardware. So
I think that what you're even thinking is coming from the same concept of slides that are a lot cheaper and they can break real easy. These are pretty high quality that we're using. I doubt that they'll be as prone to be breaking easily just by general use because they're so heavy
no, I
duty.
think they're pretty sturdy, but
Yeah.
Max can do some damage to things. And that's going to be the one thing that because as soon as he knows that snacks are in there, we'll probably just leave those doors open the majority of the time until we have company.
Well, you know what you could also do is make one of your lower cabinets have some little baskets or bins in there for his snacks just until he gets older. He'd like
Yeah.
that too. He wouldn't have to open it up.
Yeah.
That's worked really well for people I know. And then I know some people will even make the bottom drawer of their refrigerator be for the kid that when they're smaller, they just everything they can get to is the bottom drawer.
Yeah.
And then that way he's not even getting in there.
We initially had and we didn't initially have any intentions on using the pocket door stuff for the reason of our refrigerator is one of those double door refrigerators. And so inside of that refrigerator, there is a tray, and that tray is the entire width. So every single time that I want to open up that bottom tray,
We
which
have
I
the same
open
thing.
more than anything,
We do
like
the same thing.
you have to open both doors just to
Yes.
open it. And that was very annoying to us. So I was like, well, how do we solve that? Well, let's split it up into two sides, and then we could just open up one door. One side's for, food, other
Yeah.
side for
That's
baking, that
good.
kind of stuff. And then I said, well, or it's just us here. We could just leave this open, but when we have guests, we close it. And now it just looks this cool, seamless wall, basically.
That's a good idea. Another place I've seen those used is on the coffee bar. When
Mm-hmm.
someone has like a coffee and a cappuccino and all like the whole setup on the counter, they'll put those doors on there so that when they want to, they can make them concealed, but they can
Yeah.
open up and it's like it opens up the whole section. So I've seen
Yeah.
them used on a counter level before. It goes all the way up.
Hmm.
Looks pretty good. I think I have a picture of that one. It's pretty cool.
That's what I've been up to.
Cool.
A lot of brain teasers.
You know, it's well, I've been up to that, and I've been up to high levels of anxiety. We can probably riff on this for a while, but so you ever get something in your head, like an idea, and once you get that idea in your head, you just can't unsee it or unthink about it, and it
Hey, listen,
drives
I
you
wore
nuts.
clothes the whole time.
Yeah. That has been me. This whole like clutter, and I think this project has made it worse because I've had all of these gigantic plywood panels all over the shop, and every time I need something, I got to move it, and it's amazing how different the shop looks now that I don't have these 8 foot tall, panels leaning up against everything. But I can't I can't stop focusing on how cluttered I feel like everything is in my shop. Like it's driving me nuts. I spent an hour and a half the other day staring at my lumber wall. And I'm like, this is not a good use of this space. I need to change this. It looks like shit. And so same thing when I look at my miter saw station now. I'm just like, look at all of this crap everywhere. It sucks.
I'm
I
so
hate it.
jealous. You get to look at things as a retiree. I don't get that
Yeah.
luxury. You're like, oh man. I'm
Yeah.
like,
It's driving me
I was
nuts,
ragging.
man.
I was ragging on you and KM. I was going, man. Everywhere I look, I see a Type Bond bottle.
oh yeah, we've got them everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that to build on what you said, that's a stress for me that I just have to block out. Because at what point do you stop doing your work to work on your own thing? If you're still having to work to like make money, it's like you can only do so much. And that's a
Yeah.
frustration, especially when you're on social media and you see all these dream shops all the time. And you're always like going, I could do that. If I had time, I could do that. And you're like, but I can't, but I don't, there's like a
Mhm.
happy medium and and that's something new. I think before that, I mean, you look at like one of the most famous shops ever, New Yankee Workshop. His shop was so basic. It's basic. It's 2x4 jigs for drill presses and stuff, and he got it done. But we now have raised the standard so high that everything you see and everywhere, it makes it more pressure, I think. But I understand what you're talking about, having like the clean look, but it's hard with wood. When you're building things out of wood, you're gonna have wood in your shop.
Yeah, well, it's just like the way that I have it. Like I tried the whole vertical lumber storage for a really long time. And in my last shop, I think I had everything horizontal. It was all on racks. And then I moved into this shop and I'm like, oh, I've got space. I'll just use this corner over here. And then I look at it and I'm like, God, man, why do I have that there? Like, why not just get some more lumber racks on these areas that have nothing on the walls and put it up there? Like, I don't see a huge benefit to vertical. I did a video on this on my Patreon the other day, actually, talking about this very particular thing after I spent an hour and a half doing it. This was the video, Sedge, that I told you I wanted to record before you got here, and then I did the whole video and realized that my microphone wasn't on. So I did it when I got back. But yeah, I'm just like looking at it. I'm like, as you try to pick lumber, right, in a vertical way, you're stacking all that lumber one on top of each other, right? Because you just come in, you load the stuff in, boom. Well, before you know it, you have 10, 15 boards deep. You still have to pull the boards out and sort through and find what it is that you need. And so my thought process was, okay, well, why don't I do racks? And as I put these things on the racks, I sort them by size. So then I know, like, okay, I need X amount of boards that are this size. I know exactly what rack I can go to, pick through that stuff. I just don't see like it saves that much time having it vertical. So it's not like I'm going to gain
You're talking about hard lumber.
Correct.
You're talking about hardwood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love talking about hardwood.
I have found that stacking it by size, which takes a little more work, does help a lot because you feel it's not too much work to see what you have.
Mhm.
Like, and know that, okay, wait, I've got this. Okay, this one will work. This one, everything on this left side of this pile will work because it's all bigger than that. So I have found that as being a lot better if you take the time to do that versus
Yeah.
just a random pile that you don't want to spend the time going through.
The thing I have a problem with is when I get new lumber in and putting it up in the racks. I store horizontal hardwood. Uh, I store my hardwood horizontal. All my ply is vertical because it's not stacked. I can see, from the edge
Right.
what it is, and I actually mark it if it's not a full
Right.
sheet. The thing that frustrates the living daylights out of me, and Ronnie, don't pan your camera because I know what's exactly to your right is all right. But the thing that ticks me off, because I hate doing this, is it's in front of something, and you'll say, "Oh, I'm not going to get in there," and then you need what's behind there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the pissa right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I have lumber stacked in different ways and offcuts, and we talked about that clutter of offcuts. And ever since I think it was last podcast, the podcast before, I've been looking at stuff and just throwing it away.
Mhm.
Yeah. I've been doing the same. I've been throwing away a lot of things I normally would have kept. I still treat walnut as gold. I treat
Yep.
mahogany as gold.
Yep.
But a lot of the things, like I threw away some nice poplar stuff that I thought when's the next time I'm going to use it? It was for a specific project and just get rid of it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But it's hard. That's something that goes. The more
Well-
projects you do, the more good stuff you get out of it.
It's a lot easier for you because you get that burn pile right out the door.
It is nice. I like to be able to do that, and I can even see it, and it's just
Yeah.
far enough away that's not dangerous. And
And
Yeah, and you
Yep.
can start the fire
And-
with an old workbench.
yeah,
yeah,
and it's not too far away, so the skunk doesn't thaw.
true. One day when I was doing the burn pile last week, I thought, could I put that skunk on the burn pile, or would that be a mistake?
Oh,
Would that be a mistake?
That would be
probably
bad.
a huge mistake.
Do you think I would perforate that little stink stack?
Oh yeah.
So I thought, maybe we shouldn't do that. I think I'm just gonna bury him. Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, I almost did it. And I thought, ooh, that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, your shop brings back so many memories, man. That is a true woodworking working shop for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, keyword there, working
Working.
shop. Because Ronnie, you had made that comment about, you know, when can you actually do stuff if you're doing things to make money for other clients, right? And then now we do live in a time where everybody is on YouTube and like you want things to look nice. And for me, it's more like I want to enjoy the space that I'm in. And if I start getting super anxious over what I'm looking at, but at the same time, you think I would care about any of this stuff if I was like pumping out projects for clients? Like, no, because I couldn't. I've finished
Right.
one and I've got to move on to the next one.
Right.
Yep.
But
But
you
I'm
lose
already-
money. That's the thing. You lose money when you work on your own shop. That's what kind of sucks because
Yeah.
you're spending money on whatever materials you're using. You're losing time. You're either losing the work week or you're losing your weekend. And it makes it hard to ever want to try to waste that time. That's the same with the
Mhm.
trailer build out or doing things with the van. You're taking that time away from everything else. It's hard, but it pays off though. Sometimes if it's a proficiency, like organizational gain,
Mhm.
you see that back quick. But when it's just for looks thing, it makes it hard.
Well, there's
That's a
another
hard
difference
balance.
though, is that in the content creation side of things, I could use this as an opportunity to make a decent amount of money, right? You build a
Right.
new assembly table, you build a new miter saw station, you build a new set of storage cabinets, whatever the
Yeah,
case
that's
is.
the
You make
beauty of
plans
it.
for it, you make a video for it, right? So
Yes.
in all actuality, in my situation, you would
Yeah.
think it should be a priority, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it can't be. I've got to finish this project, and I have to build Nicole's dream gym in the basement.
Yeah,
but then
you're
after
right.
that,
It's really no different for you as it is for me. Just like you said, you still have to decide what you're going to spend your time on too, and what your gain is going to be off from it.
yeah.
And even though you could pick anything, and that's just taking away from another thing that you would also like to do. So you also have to make kind of decisions of what you want to spend your time on, even though they all can pay back. It's a tough way no matter how you look at it. You just
If
gotta
I'm being honest, there's I'm getting further along with this feeling of missing a traditional like wood shop. Like when I was in your shop, you know what I felt like? I
what
felt like I was in a wood shop.
did you? Well,
Right.
that's good because
When I went to
This one.
visit Don Sargood,
Uh-huh.
felt like I was in a wood shop. It's warm, it's
Uh-huh.
like I felt that way. When you go to my shop, I feel like I'm in a doctor's office. Like it's like sterile, the light colored walls, the super bright lights, but it's great for video.
Oh
You know
yeah.
what I mean?
Oh yeah. Yeah, it is.
That's why I need more wood tones in my shop.
Hey, Ronnie, it's funny you brought up New Yankee Workshop. I actually, for some reason, I started watching, when he did the Studley tool chest.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I watched that episode, most of it last night. It's pretty cool.
Oh, that's cool. I saw the update that they just finished uploading all of the episodes to YouTube like
Yeah,
2 weeks ago. They just
it's pretty
finished,
cool.
and they said they left out a few that were the kids category because the high chair one they don't think would be approved now, and they were worried about
Oh,
lawsuits. And there were some child like kids toys that they didn't upload,
huh.
but they were saying that there was a video on the router table that he built
Hmm.
that somebody borrowed from their actual main master library, and they couldn't figure out who did, and they lost it. It was lost forever. They were getting ready to, and then they reached out to their network and they said, does anybody have this VHS? Did anybody buy it? And somebody reached out and gave it back to them. So it was almost lost forever.
Oh,
And
wow.
they just put that one back out on YouTube. So all of them are out there now. It's pretty
Very
cool.
cool. So I'll bring it full circle. I said this already on the podcast. Standing in your shop, right, and looking around, I walked in there and I went. We both said looks a little bit smaller, right?
Yeah.
But as you've talked about your shop and what we've seen on videos, it gives me a different perspective of your shop. So about 10 years ago, I was invited to, I was almost blindfolded because you can't tell where New Yankee Workshop is, right? Okay. But I'm in there and I'm talking with Russell Borash and my buddy Jim and Norm, and I couldn't stop looking around because I was like, wow, this is a little bit smaller than I thought, but I now have a perspective of what. So last night when I'm watching that new Yankee Workshop, I'm going, oh yeah, I've been in that shop. It's kind of cool.
His shop is smaller than mine, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, I thought so. I've seen it
Yeah.
from the outside before. It's a lot smaller than I thought it was.
Yeah.
But
It's
he
pretty cool
look
though.
what all he accomplished in there. It's amazing.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. And I really like how he started. He walks out and then walks back in.
Yeah.
And seeing now from, creating videos and seeing how, and I know the videographer, his name is Dino. He shot most of it. And that's my buddy. And it's kind of cool to see all of that. And sometimes you watch a video and you go, huh, huh, and you don't realize the space that person's in.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It's really, I was so in awe of your property. You had said a couple times about it, you got to step down. And I was like, what does he mean by that? And then we went up into where all the you could pull the van in and everything. And
Yeah.
your CNC is in there. And
Yes.
I'm just like, okay, I get it now. And what a nice bathroom.
Yeah.
You're free to go wherever you want.
I
Really
love it.
nice.
I felt like I was back home in Maine. I
Yep.
really did. I know it was snowing or it had snowed and everything, but I just, even in the back, it's so cool. What a nice property, Ronnie. You guys are
Thank
really
you.
blessed.
It would be interesting for you to see it in the summer because it looks a lot different. Like you can see
Yeah.
right now in the distance, houses on the hills and stuff. When the leaves come on the trees, it's like we're by ourselves out here. It's in feels like you're just in the middle of nowhere. It's different in
Yeah.
the winter, but that'll change soon. Um, but I really worked out nice. I know I told you all, but it was supposed to be a commercial property just about a mile from here. And
Oh.
once I started hearing all the rules and the approvals that had to happen and the permittable parking lot pavers had to be, I was thinking that's not what I'm going towards. And I'm so glad that we found this place instead of a commercial lot that people would have showed up and asked me to build things that I don't like, rocking horses and stuff. And I would have been, it would have been awful. I'm so glad. And I wouldn't have been able to leave garage doors open to work all day. People would be walking up, and here I can go out in the driveway and just work, or the other side. And it's nice. because my biggest thing that I used to always be annoyed by was when I'd open my garage door, people would always like, "What you doing?" You're sitting there, you're trying to get things done, and it's like I'm working, and they're like, "I've been wanting to talk to you about something about." And you're like, "Ah."
Yeah.
So that's one of my favorite things is we're able to get things done without interruption out here.
Yeah,
It's nice.
it's cool. Yeah,
Did-
it was nice seeing where your original shop was too in your basement.
Oh yeah, yep. Now that we call that part of Cameron's extended room, and
Yeah.
it's I'm not really down there a lot too. When I was telling you all, it like brought it back to me again that I used to operate out of there. That's what I when
Yeah.
I was the corporate world, I would make things there, and I mean I would build huge built-ins, and then have to get them around the entire house, like out the back and out through the living area at the back door and wraps around. And I just think about that. And I'm like, gosh, that was a lot of work.
Hmm.
And getting my Powermatic 66 saw, I got it around the house into the shop and back both times by myself.
What?
Ugh.
550 pounds.
What?
I just used brain power of casters and wheels and doing things, and I got it around there both like when I loaded it in and when I took it out, and the joiner. That was a big
Jesus.
move. When I moved out of my shop to the other shop, it's just like moving out of a house. You think, oh, it won't
Yep.
take that long. I
Oh
was
no.
loading trailers down, trailer after trailer after trailer. And I didn't have the benefit of being able to burn wood, so I had to haul everything out. So I really appreciate the luxury of being able to burn all the scraps and not load down the trash. But
Yeah.
Yeah. That
it's
always makes
fun.
me cringe when I think about people that are in um, basement workshops and like getting all the tools down there. I'm like,
Oh,
oh
it's
my
awful.
gosh.
It's
The,
terrible.
um, one of the guys, Fabian, who I visit when I go to Germany, Fab in the Basement is his Instagram. Every time I go back there, I go over to his place and hang out. And he has a shop in the basement. And I mean, he's got, the same table saw I do. He has a full size dust collector. Well, he has a Harvey now, but um, he's got the joiner planer combo. He's got router
Wow.
table, drill press, tiny, tiny, tiny space, hand tool workbench. I mean, like quarter the size of my shop. And
Wow.
his staircase to get down there spirals, and I have to duck after I get down like 6 steps so I don't hit my head, on
Wow.
the concrete. Yeah, it's crazy. I'm like, how on earth did you get everything down here? He's
Wow.
like, had to all be taken apart. And I was like,
Wow.
what are you going to do when you move? And inevitably, he's going to move his shop because he might be getting the property next door and building a big shop there. But I'm like, I can't even imagine. He's like, I'll have to take everything apart, or I'll just get new stuff and leave this stuff down here.
Mm. Well, I
I
have a
mean, I wouldn't
friend that,
blame him.
yeah,
I would not blame him at all.
yeah. I have a friend that built a house, and this is probably the best situation for a basement. He had his entryway with the wraparound staircase and all that, but on the side entry of the house where the three-car garage was, he had a door with poured concrete, like 5 foot wide stairs that went straight
Yep.
down, and it
Yep.
went straight down to where his workshop area is. So unlike when I had to walk out the walkout basement, walk around the house and get everything, walk through the grass, it was awful. He's at least able to work in his garage. And if he wants to go down to the main workshop, it's right there. So taking sheet goods down and things, he can go straight from his
Where
truck down those stairs and there's no turns. And
where do you
that's pretty good. That would work as a basement shop.
I'm trying to think where I saw that. Yeah, I
So
saw it in person one time in the garage. They had a staircase very wide that
yeah,
went downstairs because he wanted a shop down there.
yeah, those
That is like the
being
smartest thing I had ever
it is
seen.
being 5 feet wide really helps a lot too, because if you're carrying up
Yeah.
sheet goods, you don't have to feel like you're like really tight. It's like you
Yeah.
can stand and you can get machinery down there, and he has tall ceilings in the basement also, and that's important too. I mean, if you
The
can do it when you flip material around.
the rental that Ryan Woodard was staying in, Ronnie, where you picked up your boat trailer,
Yeah.
he had a staircase in his garage that led down to the basement, which was his workshop. But his was not like a straight shot. You'd basically walk in the garage, and then against the back wall, going the other direction, was a staircase. And the guy that lived there, I guess a while back, he had some sort of like pulley system or something that was rigged up to where he would be able to. It wasn't there anymore, but that's what he used it for, and it was a staircase in the garage, and I'd never seen it. I thought I was like, that's kind of smart. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah, yeah, it is.
yeah,
And
it
then
still was
I've
a pain to
also
get stuff down, but
I saved an article in Fine Woodworking, I believe. It was either Fine Home Building or Fine Woodworking a long time ago, where they had a loft over the garage, and it was like a full out workshop. And where you pull the car in, they had a like an elevator type lift that if you bought a new saw, you put it on there and it raises up to the floor. And I was like, that's like ideal. If you can't be on the ground floor, it was a wide open space up there, and you could get anything you wanted up that little lift. And it was really a cool layout, like a full shop layout and over like a 3-car garage. I thought that was a cool idea.
that'd be
You
really cool.
That would allow you to get the wood floors, and you could do a lot with that layout. I think that would be nice.
You could run
You'd have
ductwork underneath and bring it in the floor.
uh-huh. You could have
Mhm.
windows, you could have a view, like that would be a
Electrical.
cool design. Yeah, it'd be a cool design. It had like vaulted ceilings, like with like, beams and
Yeah.
things. It looked really cool. Yep. I think
Great.
it's
Now I want to build a different shop when I build my dream shop. I
yeah,
can pull
I
my
think it
boat
takes
underneath.
it takes having different shops to know what you want. And I think the smaller you start out, better, because you start realizing how much you can get done in a small space.
Yep.
I
Yeah.
think that's important.
Well, and then you increase the size. And I just had this conversation today. I'm doing the shop layout stuff with one of our patrons, actually, Ken. We had our second call today where we went over 4 different layouts, and he's not quite doubling his size. We'll just say it was like a standard like 2-car garage, and he's basically adding like, I don't know, 14 by 30 to it. And when we pulled up the layouts today, it was funny because one of the things he said, he was like, "Is that the size of my current assembly table?" And I said, "Yeah." And he goes, "It just seems small." I'm like, "Because you have a lot more space.
Yeah.
Now you have all of this extra space. Like you're not going to have any problem at all, like fitting everything that you have." I said, "But eventually it'll get filled up,
Well,
right?"
throw a little boat profile in there on them.
Yeah.
You're gonna have
This
so
is where
much
you
room,
build your
Ronnie.
boat.
When
You're gonna
I was
you're gonna
thinking
have so much room.
it's been 15 months now. I was thinking about how long it's been. And when that goes out of there, I'm gonna be like, wow,
Yep.
this is
Exactly.
huge.
Yep.
I still just can't get over how you have to get that thing out. I mean, good on you for planning for the garage door stuff in the future, but holy cow,
No,
that's going to be a whole thing by itself.
Are you gonna
no.
expand at the same time?
Yes, that's the plan. Or
Yeah.
very close. I won't have to fill it back in. But yeah, it's just basically like T11 siding on both sides with insulation. All I have to do is remove the framing. It's already been framed up for a garage door. I don't know exactly where it is on the wall. I've got to kind of look at pictures and figure that out. But I believe it's on the center. It's towards the center, and I have one right behind me where I am right now. I did one on both
Yeah.
sides, and I
Just
did
take
that
your
for if
stud
I.
finder, and when you don't see the thing go, you'll know.
Yeah, I have a picture. I know when we framed it up that well, I have that probably have 500 pictures. I'll be able to see how far it was over. But yeah, that'll be our excuse once we take that out of the wall and we get that out, we'll be able to do another addition because we'll need more space because it's gonna be for the first time we're gonna have 2 people working here more full time.
Mhm.
We're gonna need a
Yep.
little more space. Cameron's gonna have things he's working on that I'm not working on, and
Yep.
I'm really starting to think a lot about that right now on how this becomes like a 2-man shop and not an after school shop. Like Cameron comes and works here for a few hours with me, and on the weekends we work together, but we're going to be working on different things like commonly. So we're going to need some more space for sure.
So is he going to change the name to Cam's Side Shop?
He'll
Is
always
Cam
have
is
the
he coming out
corner.
of the corner?
That's going to
Yeah.
probably always be his corner, I
Yeah.
think. He has the corner, and then he also uses the upper area, like the mechanic area, because he likes to work on his dirt
Oh,
bikes and cars and everything up there too. So he'll use that. He just had a welder put in that he bought at Hartville, and he's been using that a lot. He's already been welding for friends, have broken parts on their cars and stuff. They come over, and he's already starting to do that. Um, so
That's so cool.
that's going to evolve a little bit, I think, on him on doing that kind of work as well. I think he'll be doing a little bit of everything when he gets out, kind
Mm.
of testing the waters.
How big is
But
the addition that you want to do?
it would be about 30 wide, 30 wide, and probably like 24 deep.
Wow.
About the size to build a lot bigger boat.
Hmm.
That's what it is. That's what it is. I mean, the addition we're doing is
Fulton Boat
for
Works.
it's for building the boat that I wanted to build, but I held back because I wanted to kind of see how this goes. But the next boat we build, that would be in that section, and it would be out. We wouldn't affect our. We could have all our machinery set up again with like the dust collection hooked up, and not have to move things around because it's been kind of a hindrance on this one. We've had to kind of make do. But if we had a room right off from this that we built and then had all the machinery in here, that'd be really nice.
I feel like
That's no.
you are going to become a boat guy.
Yeah.
I I would be okay with just building boats from here on out. I'd be okay with it. I would.
Fulton Boat Works.
I would. And Cameron likes it too, so it's kind of interesting. He's into it. So we'll see. I could see doing like, one or two, custom ones a year. I don't think I'd ever want to get that. I don't think I ever want to work that intensely again, but maybe even just work on one a year, something on the
One a
side.
year and sell it for $400,000.
Yeah, I saw a 27-foot mahogany was 650 not too long ago. A new one somebody had built was 650,000.
Jesus.
So you could do one a year.
Do you
You
do
could
you
do
think
one.
that addition's going to happen this year? If you're going to
Um,
finish up the boat and you're going to
the mo-
be
the
like,
biggest priority we have is just getting this on the water while it's still warm. That's the biggest thing, and it'll take cutting that out. And then I would think at the most maybe have the concrete work done by the time that the weather turns, because we could always frame it out and finish it up even over the winter. But that's where ideally we would be doing it in late fall. That would
Wow.
be ideally.
wow,
That would be
that's crazy.
that would be ideal.
Boats
Yeah,
by
because you
Ronnie.
still got all your work to do too.
Yes. Yeah, but hopefully Cameron will be absorbing some of that soon because he's gonna be out of school in like 2 months, 3 months.
I
What
know.
is it?
I know.
It's nuts.
March, April, May, three months maybe. He's out.
That's crazy.
When did that happen? And then he's 18 next month.
They grow so
They
fast.
do. They do. They do. But I will also say it's so nice to grow over. I see how these companies that have been around like 50, 75 years, 100 years, if you're able to have the land where your building can grow as you need, it's really cool because you realize, okay, I need something for this, and you add that on and you add that on. And it's something you would never know in the beginning to say, okay, I need these four different areas. But it's neat how it like when you really know, okay, I definitely need this, and then you build that. And it's a different way of having a master plan because the way you work and what you build changes over time.
Mhm.
But I think that I always said I didn't want any bigger than what we have. I think 32 by 30 area is really perfect for us. But when you're building something really big, you kind of need
Right.
more space to build it.
Yep.
That's what
Always.
I've learned.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Well, I think we can go ahead and call this one so I can get this bad
Wow.
boy edited.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much, everybody, for oh, here I got to figure out a interesting way to do
Yeah.
this.
A segue out of here.
Yeah, you always kill it.
Whatever.
Thanks for listening to 173 of the Three Splinters podcast. It was a great time.
Bye-bye.
And Sedge says bye bye. Do it again, Sedge.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.